In this video, I am going to talk about how to express yourself better in English. Hi there, Ninja! Welcome back to my channel. This is Rhea once again, and you're watching Call Center Ninja. I share real stories and tips to begin, enjoy, and survive your call center lifestyle. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing by clicking the red subscribe button down below, and also click the notification bell for you not to miss out with any of my videos. Learning English, or basically any kind of foreign language, is an adventure of a lifetime. It is a continuous process, and I always say this, it doesn't happen overnight. Well, some of you may say that, okay, I know that I can speak in English well, I know that I can communicate well. However, sometimes it becomes harder for me to express myself in English, perhaps because you keep forgetting what to say next, or you just can't organize your thoughts well in English. In which case, that's when stuttering, stammering, or dead air or fillers usually happen. Okay, but there are actually ways for you to improve your thought organization, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Tip number 1 is to read, and read a lot. This might sound like a cliche because if you read or watch videos, a lot of people will tell you that you have to read and read and read. And even in my past English videos, English communication videos, I always say that you have to start with reading. But I cannot stress this enough. When you read, you have to read with intention. But that doesn't mean that you have to read the things that you don't enjoy or you don't like. You can actually learn how to express yourself or your thoughts better in English just by reading things that you actually love reading or you enjoy reading. When I was a kid, I remember I started reading this herbal book that we had at home. This herbal book contained different herbal plants, fruits, vegetables in English from A to Z. So I'm saying this because when we're growing up, it's even much harder for us to learn a foreign language, but we're actually at an advantage because we've already learned it since kindergarten, and we just have to master it, and we have to learn fluency, like how to express ourselves better in English. Now, when you read, you have to be intentional with it, and what I mean by that is when you see that there's something that you cannot understand, you have to write it down in your notebook. Writing down the words, the statements, and the phrases will help you remember it better, because there's something solid that you can actually see and you can go back to. So listen, you have to start building your English words arsenal, because those words are the words that you will use to piece your English phrases, your English statements, and your English sentences together. When you read, you also have to put it into context. You have to look at your environment. Listen to the conversations of your environment. So this is just in addition to the reading part. If I may share with you this one Filipino movie, if I'm not mistaken, I think the title was Prenup. It was by Jenlyn Mercado and Sam Milby. So I watched this movie, and then Jen was in New York, so of course it's English there, right? Every time she would actually hear conversations and phrases that sounded interesting to her, she would write the phrases or the sentences down. Like the first time she was in the subway, she was on the road or in the street, she was at the bar, at a restaurant, she would always write down the phrases that she could hear. Jen was able to use those English phrases and statements. She was able to use it so that she could answer the ex-girlfriend with some English phrases and English statements. So that was quite funny, but it made sense because you will really learn from the conversations of your environment. It doesn't matter if you are in in an American country, an American state, or in the United States, even just here in the country. When you are going to the restaurant, when you're watching movies, when you're watching TV shows, you will see different conversations, and you have to put it into context. Are these formal or informal conversations? And you'll be able to use those statements and phrases for you to solidify your thoughts, so that the next time you already have English words in your arsenal. Tip number 2 is to organize your thoughts through PREP. P-R-E-P. P stands for point, R stands for reason, E stands for elaborate or explain, and the last P stands for point. So you will go back to the main point. For example, when you are trying to explain something in English in your head, then you have to start with your point. What's the point of your explanation? What is that bigger umbrella of everything? So, say for example, my main point is that I want to go to Singapore because I want to travel. That's my point. What is the reason? I already said that I want to travel, but I need to elaborate it. I need to support my point that I want to go to Singapore to travel. Are we following? So I will say something like, I want to be alone, and I want to spend a lot more time for myself. I want to make an effort to regroup and to actually make my soul feel refreshed. I decided not to bring my friends with me because this is going to be a solo trip. I will go to Gardens by the Bay, I will go to Marina Bay Sands, I will go to Merlion Park because I love parks. I will go to the Singapore Zoo because I love animals. I elaborated it and I explained the main point, why I want to go to Singapore to travel. So you're done elaborating and explaining further why you need to travel to Singapore. You have explained those things with your supporting ideas. Now you have to go back to your main point. Right? So you will say something like, okay, that's why I want to travel to Singapore because I want to be alone with myself. So it's like you are concluding something at the end of your explanation, but you're using different words. It's just you're paraphrasing the main point. That is like the ending of your explanation of your entire story. Tip number 3 is to practice mind mapping. Mind mapping is something that you will not really remember right there and then when you try to speak and express yourself in English, but it helps with preparation. So when you are mind mapping, it's important that you try to start with a main idea or a single thought. It's just like the second item or the second tip that I mentioned, which is the prep. You started with one point, right? With mind mapping, you start with one main idea, which is the umbrella of everything. So that is the start of your map. What is the main idea of your entire speech or what you're trying to communicate or what your message is? If you remember, this was something that we've learned from maybe elementary or high school, that there is a main idea and then there are supporting ideas. So it's similar to that. So for example, your main idea is you want to join a contest. So you can say something like, I want to join a photography contest because I think that I have what it takes to win. So that is, for example, your main idea, right? And then you think of the supporting ideas. I know this can be quite overwhelming, but this actually helps as soon as you get used to it. You think of the supporting ideas and the little things that can support that. So since you want to join a photography contest, you will then say something about that. So you can say something like, when I was young, I was already very keen and very observant with the things that I see in my environment. And then that's one idea, right? And then another idea you'd want to share is that because I was very observant and keen, and I would always see the environment in a different light, I started to become more passionate about photography at an early age. And then you can add another idea, supporting idea of why you want to join the contest. So you can say something like, because of that, at the age of 10, my parents bought me my first ever camera that I can practice with. So you see how those main ideas supported my main idea? It's just like that. You are connecting pieces together. My tip number 4 is storytelling. Not a lot of people can actually tell a good story, but for you to be able to start being a good storyteller, you have to think of the beginning, the middle, and the ending. That's pretty much how things work in movies or when you're reading books, right? That's the basic and the standard thing that you have to look at. So when you're telling a story, unless of course you are studying to become a film director or film writer, then there are other ways to tell a story. But the basic one or the simple one is to start from the very beginning. What happened from the start? Chronological order. And then you move on to what happened next until you get to the ending. That's pretty much it when you want to tell a story. And storytelling really helps you to express yourself better in English and to organize your thoughts because you are thinking chronologically. In fact, this is one of the best things that you can actually follow for you to improve your thought organization, right? Of course, when you're telling a story, you don't just jump to the ending right away, right? Again, unless you're studying to be a film director. But, you know, if you want to rely from memory, then start from the beginning until the end. And that's how you can organize your thoughts well. My tip number 5, the last but not the least, is to use a mnemonic device. MNEMONIC. A mnemonic device is a device used to aid your memory or someone's memory. My own mnemonic device is that I use the first letter of a word or an idea to help me remember something and to help me with organizing my thoughts. I have learned to do this since elementary or grade school because my mom taught me how to do this. It is the best way for me to memorize and to remember things. So how does it work? You might be probably doing this, but you just don't notice it that it's actually helping you. For example, if you remember tip number 2, I mentioned prep, right? So P stands for point, R stands for reason, E stands for explain and elaborate, and P stands for point. So that is my mnemonic device to remember what prep means. It's like an acronym of something that you want to remember. It helps you organize your thoughts because it's also in order. So for example, the planets, right? M, them, J, Sun, P. If we include Pluto, or I think Pluto has now been reinstated as a planet. Correct me if I'm wrong, but anyway, that's also one of the mnemonic devices that I've used back in grade school to remember the different planets, M, them, Jason, P. Or the rainbow, the colors of the rainbow, Roy G. Biv, right? Because if you just memorize it at the top of your head, you will forget it. You will likely forget it. So use a mnemonic device. For some, they try to associate a certain idea to a certain word. So for example, the idea is that you want to go to a festival. So you can think of music, like that festival to me means music. So that's the idea that I associate with the festival. And that helps you organize and express your thoughts well, because again, you are associating it with the things that you will likely remember right away. And so that's about it for today. Thank you so much for watching and for listening. I hope you learned some learning techniques from what I have shared with you. If you like this video, please like,